If you're watching this, it's probably because you've gone and watched the Honest Movie News Indiana Jones episode, where I'm giving the news as if I'm speaking from the Indiana Jones universe. Thank you for watching that video, and like previous videos, we're going to explore a bit more the what if question that particular film series asks, and also see if we can figure out a way to take it in a slightly different direction. So if you've watched that episode, if you've seen Indiana Jones at all, you know that the original what if question that the series asks is, what if these sort of ancient artifacts, usually religious artifacts, actually existed? So you've got the Ark of the Covenant from Raiders of the Lost Ark, the Cup of Christ, the Crystal Skull, the Sankara stones. They're the principal ones that they have looked for in the films. These are prominent religious artifacts in a couple of, the Crystal Skull isn't, but they're mythical in a sense, or considered mythical objects. And Indiana Jones asks, what if they were real? And what if they had the power to do what they supposedly did? And so Raiders of the Lost Ark answers the question by showcasing the Ark of the Covenant being opened and God being particularly angry with those who opened it, which, considering this wasn't the Israelite people, made sense for the ending in Indiana Jones. And that's why Raiders of the Lost Ark is a good film. It posits the existence of the artifacts, that they'd want to be hidden but also kept pristine because they're important religious artifacts, and it posits that if you're unworthy of these items, they will destroy you, which is what happens in Temple of Doom. The Sankara stones are clearly not liking the main bad guy in that, and they lead to his death. In The Last Crusade, it's clear that if you do not respect the Cup of Christ and the true meaning behind what it represents, then you will be destroyed too. There's limits to the power that it will give you. And in the case of the Crystal Skull, which isn't the best, obviously, and in a sense, there's a certain hubris with the villain in that story. She gets her wish that the skull said it would give, but she couldn't handle it. And that's the answer to the what if question the Indiana Jones series gives. Yes, these artifacts existed, they will destroy you, and maybe you're not worthy of them, so leave them be. But there is another way to take the Indiana Jones, or at least you could answer the question in a different way. In the Honest Movie News episode, I was obviously talking about how the existence of these artifacts proves that the religion they're associated with is true. In mostly the episode is the Raiders of the Lost Ark, and finding the Ark, showing that the Angel of Death comes out and wipes out anybody present, is a major sort of indication that God exists. Certainly that what's in the Bible must be true. And in a way, the film just brushes that sweeps it under the carpet by having the Ark placed in a warehouse because the Americans are too afraid of it, and that's it. But why? What would happen if instead the existence of these artifacts didn't involve the deaths of everyone present? Instead, they proved that God existed. And you could do that with any artifact, really. It doesn't really matter what religion you're talking about. So in the episode, I talked about how, like, the news would obviously report on what the proven existence of God would do to the world. Now, we live in a world where people know that God exists, but we also live in a world where people believe he doesn't. And you can twist that wording however you want. So God, for a given value of existing, is a part of our world, but it doesn't change the world in the way that absolute proof would. So why not have a film series, TV series, book series, whatever, that deals with God is proven to exist, or insert a religion, and what would be the actual consequences like that? I think you'd have to restrict it to the idea that God isn't any more present in the world than he already is. So let's say that we discovered the actual Ark. So it's buried in ice on top of a mountain somewhere, or under rock, or under dust, whatever. They find the Ark that Noah built. Definitive proof that what was in the Bible was true, especially a miraculous thing. Maybe you'd have to go with the Ark of the Covenant, maybe you'd have to go with the tomb of Jesus, so on and so forth. It doesn't matter what the artifact is, as long as it's unequivocal proof, you're fine. But no more of that. God doesn't appear, no angels appear, no demons appear. We found the scientific and historical proof that is undeniable, completely undeniable. And so what would the world be like if, instead of looking around wondering and believing that he doesn't exist, or choosing to believe that he does, and so on, what if instead we knew? And what would be the consequences of that? Would charitable giving go up? How would people who don't want God to exist react? What kind of life choices would be made? You probably should, if you're writing the story right now. If you are, put something in the comments. I want to hear about it, and maybe other people want to hear about it too. Your idea might be better than what I'm talking about now. But I would, if I wrote this, I would shy away from things like suddenly there's now religious fundamentalism in the world. That's bountiful in many stories. Instead, you've got to try and think about how being a religious fundamentalist actually isn't also going to benefit you if you know God exists. Like religious fundamentalists in the past, yes, they truly believed they were doing God's will, but there's a difference when that person now, in a sense, can't draw on something that's speculative, that isn't certain, and instead has to try and be religiously fundamentalist when we know God exists. And that obviously affects their mental state, because some religious fundamentalists weren't religious in any way. They didn't believe in God, they didn't serve him, they were utilizing a faith for their own power and wealth. So that's what I would shy away from it. It's more like I would concentrate on the personal dynamics between people who were faced with this knowledge, and also the way the world would change. What would happen to all the billionaires and millionaires who are hoarding wealth? Would they give it up? Would they be charitable? Would they fight back? Would there be lies about it? Oh, that's another way you could go. Proof exists, and instead of it being released to the whole world, it's released to just enough people to cause a sort of where someone actively tries to destroy it, as opposed to letting it out into the world. That almost, it flips, that you've got this absolute proof, and now the sort of like people who deny that God exists, they're the ones who are suddenly showing themselves to be religiously fundamentalist, and they can't believe in this absolute proof. And that'd be a flip on the sort of narrative that we usually do, because we're trying to be original here with these stories. We're asking the same what if questions, but we want to take it in a different direction. If you know of something that already does this, put that in the comments too, because people might want to read that particular story. And there you go. I just think that you can go a different direction than the Indiana Jones series went. And the Indiana Jones series repeats this like 3 times. There's the Temple of Doom, the Sankara stones are also too powerful for a person to wield, and they should be respected. The Cup of Christ, same sort of thing. We find it can possibly damage people if you don't respect its power and where it comes from, and the same with the Crystal Skull. So what's the next Indiana Jones going to be? Another artifact, Excalibur, and the person who picks it up automatically dies? It's the same thing over and over again. You've got to tackle the existence of these artifacts in a different way, and I think what they prove is a more interesting direction than the power that they have. Yeah. Thanks again for watching the Indiana Jones episode, and like and subscribe to The Eighth Plot, and go look for the other videos. Again, mostly Minecraft videos, because I like to build stuff from the universes I create in my books. Hint, hint. And there we go. Don't forget to comment on how you would answer that what if question. So the question is, what if these artifacts were real? Answer some form of consequence. So yeah, thank you. Have a good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are in the world. Goodbye.